All right, young scholars. So as promised last week or last class on Tuesday, I have placed our recording from Tuesday inside this week's folder for you guys to review as you need. I also added for you at the top of our Blackboard page this link to the Java online compiler that I use. So what we're going to be doing on Thursdays is going to be, well, my experience is that the best way to learn Java programming is by doing Java programming. So today and all the Thursdays going forward, we're going to, in essence, learn Java by doing Java. So after this week, which we've basically used to serve as a review, starting next week, Tuesday will be kind of a lecture geared towards a new topic. I believe arrays is our first topic. You may or may not have seen that in Programming 1. Hopefully you did, but if you did not, next week will also be a review for you. So today I want us to do 5 programs. In the first one, we're going to demonstrate a declaration, initialization, and the use of an integer value to display the number of keys on a piano. We'll use a class and a method in order to do that. We'll simply print line out that a piano has X number of keys. Then the second one will demonstrate the use of a nested for loop to display a triangle of asterisks or stars. We'll use a class and a method. The method will contain a for loop within a for loop, which is called a nested loop. The third program will demonstrate the use of primitive data types and arithmetic expressions to calculate the conversion between Celsius and Fahrenheit temperatures. We'll use a class and a method. Our final variables will be used. Then our fourth program will be demonstrating the use of a simple for loop with the involvement of user input to request an upper and lower limit to find multiples between those numbers. We'll use a for loop to determine the multiples between each of the inputted variables, and we'll use an if statement to allow the program to end if a user inputs the number 0. Then the last program we'll demonstrate the use of the number format class to format output needed for percentage and currency to create a calculation based on inputted quantity and unit prices. That'll again use a class and method, and will also include a final variable. So like I said, you're welcome to use this online compiler that I use for myself, or any IDE you've used in the past, Eclipse, Dr. Java, BlueJ. So in order to display our piano keys, let's create a class called piano keys. So Franny, what do I have to do on the next line after I've created this class, piano keys?
Create the method.
First, we need our little bracket to open our piano keys, and then we'll create the method. So what I like to do when I'm programming is to explain what I'm doing in the comments. So here, create a method that prints the number of keys on a piano. So then we create our method here. public static void main. In this case, our argument's a string. And Calvin, what do we do now that we've created a method? Calvin's not there. Amelia, what do we do now that we've created this method?
You need to open up your brackets so then you can write within it.
Yep. So we input our first bracket, we hit enter. At least in my online compiler, once you hit enter, it auto-generates the closing bracket for your method. So when you're doing this on your
Yeah,
own,
that's what I have too.
if you have it in Eclipse, I'm not sure if it does that.
I have it in Eclipse.
Okay, so it automatically does that in Eclipse too? Awesome. So who,
Seems like it.
go ahead. So who actually knows how many keys there are on a keyboard?
Isn't it 88?
Yep. So let's make an integer.
Yeah.
Keys equal to 88. And Franny, how do we end lines of code?
With the dot and the comma.
Yep, semicolon.
Yeah, semicolon.
So I'm going to put a comment above this. Setting integer keys to number of keys on a piano. Then our next section, we're going to print text with the variable to inform users how many keys are on a piano. So anytime you're outputting something, it's system.out.println. And what do we want our text to be? Amelia, what do you want the text to be?
A piano has close parentheses plus keys. Um, a space in between the has and the parentheses.
Very good. Everybody knows why we have to do that, right? Otherwise, it would say the piano has, and then keys, the number would be right next to it. Do we want anything after keys?
A period, close parentheses.
So, like that?
Oh, I know what you mean. So yeah, you open parentheses again and then say keys, space keys. Or yeah,
Yep. Because this
because
keys,
it's just gonna say a piano has 88 otherwise.
right. That keys here with the plus after it and the plus before it, that's our variable keys that we sent above. So what's going to happen now that I run this?
It should print a piano has 88 keys.
Yep, it should
For
say
mine, it says piano.
the piano has 88 keys.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's missing the semicolon at the end.
Very good. That's why when I ran it, we have our error. See, even those who have done this all the time forget things every now and again. So the piano has 88 keys. Now, like Amelia said, if we remove those spaces and run, it's simply going to jam everything together. So we put those spaces back in, and now everything's nice and spread out. That's why, like I said, you always want to run, look at the output, keep lines of code here as comments to tell yourself what you're doing. So like I said, we're creating a method that prints the number of keys on a piano. That's what our method here did. Here we're setting an integer keys to the number of keys on a piano. That's exactly what the next line of code did. Then we're printing text with the variable to inform users how many keys are on a piano. That's what this next line of code did. So you don't have to do it for every single thing, but I think, from my experience, just typing it out that way kind of helps you think of what you need to do for each individual thing you're doing. And you could always delete out your comments because they're not technically part of the code. So for example, setting integer keys to a number of keys on a piano, well, that's pretty obvious. So you could always delete that out. It doesn't affect your code. So that was the first example code we're going to do today. The next, I think, is kind of cool. I don't know, does Bloomfield offer a 3D graphics course using Java? I had one of those
I don't know. That's a good
many, many
question.
years ago when I first learned Java programming, but I'm not entirely sure if it's offered everywhere.
They do have game design and game programming as like majors, but I'm not sure if they offer that within the major.
Okay. So we're going to call our next program here public class stars, because in this instance we're going to print a triangle using the asterisk character. So now what do we have to do? We've created our class. Now we need to create our method. We need our brackets to make sure everything is now inside our method. So when you had programming 1, did you ever use final variables?
I did.
Okay. So Amelia, you know what is meant when I would do final int and name it max rows, set it to 10. You know what's going on here?
You can't change it.
Yep.
That's stuck now. Yeah.
So set a final variable never changes. Whereas with our other variables, if we don't have final, we could always change it using an iterator, plus plus, minus minus, however you'd like to do it. So in order to do this, we're going to create a simple for loop. So for integer row equals 1. What does row have to be less than or equal to?
It's going to be less than or equal to the max rows.
Yep. The only other variable we have set so far is our max rows. So what are we going to do with row every time this condition is met, that it's less than or equal to max rows?
Add one.
Yep. We're going to use an iterator to add 1 every time. So within the for loop, we're setting an integer row equal to 1. And anytime it is less than or equal to this 10 that we've set above, the for loop continues by adding 1 to the row. Now we have to open up our for loop with brackets, and we're going to create a for loop within a for loop, or a nested for loop. So within this for loop, we're going to create an integer star equal to 1, just like we did with our row. So now who knows how to finish out the rest of the line of code? How would this line work? No guesses? Think back to this first for loop. In this instance now, we're going to have star less than or equal to row. And then have an iterator for our star. So every time the row increases, the number of stars increases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now what do we have to print out?
An asterisk.
Yep. So system.out.print. And why do we need to put it inside of quotes?
Um, you're printing it as like, you're going to print it as a string.
Yep. Instead of a variable, it's printed out as a string. And then our last line is our system.out.print. And remember to close everything with your semicolons. So here we're creating a nested for loop that increases the number of stars as each row increases. So when you run this, it doesn't like what we did. What am I missing? Ah, okay. Make sure you spell everything correctly. Because I had within our method strings instead of string, and we had that error message pop up. So you see here your output: 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, 6 star, 7 star, 8 star, 9 star, 10 star. How come it gives us 10? Because we have this set as less than or equal. If we change that to just less than, it would only output out 9 stars. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So hopefully a lot of this is coming back to you from memory for programming 1. Okay, so our third program we're going to create is a temperature.
Wait, I just had a question about that. So for the second loop, you didn't open for the second loops you didn't open brackets, so it's just the immediate line following. That's important, yeah?
Yes. Because
Okay.
it's all nested within the other four. So you probably, hopefully did this in programming 1. Yes? No? Create a method
Yeah.
to convert. So who knows the integer base between Celsius and Fahrenheit?
It's 32.
Yep. So when it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it's 0 degrees Celsius. So that's commonly used as the base between them. So again, who remembers why this is a final integer? When you have final in front of your variable, it never changes. So that base is never going to change. So here we're going to set a final double conversion factor as 9 divided by 5, which is how you calculate between the two different temperatures. So why is it 9.0 divided by 5.0 and not 9 divided by 5?
Because then it confuses the machine. It needs to have the decimal place on there.
Yep, also because we've set it as a double. If
Yeah, that's what I
simply-
mean. It has to have the decimal place in there, otherwise it gets confused.
Yep. If it was simply an int, you could have it as 9 and 5. However, when you compute everything, it's going to truncate the decimal, which is
Mhm.
not helpful. So now we're going to create a double that gives us our Fahrenheit temperature. Now you don't have to use these specific variables. Like I said, I just like to make it as easy as possible for myself. And we're going to set our Celsius temperature here to 24 rather than use the scanner class to get input. So now if we want to compute them, what do we have to do?
Is it it's add 32 and then multiply by 9 over 5? Or is it the other way around?
We're going to have our Fahrenheit temperature equal to what? What is it multiplying? Our Celsius temperature, right? Multiplied by what?
By the conversion factor?
Yep. And then adding what? What's the only thing left we haven't used?
The base.
Yep. And what goes at the end?
The semicolon.
Yep. And now what do we have to output? Do we want to output both temperatures or just the Fahrenheit temperature?
We can output both.
Okay. So system.out.println. So let's say Celsius temp. And then what do we have to add here? What variable? Celsius temp. Close that line of code, the semicolon, and we have our second print line. And here we want to have Fahrenheit temp. So what variable are we adding here?
Fahrenheit temp.
Yep. And close it with a semicolon. And if you spelled everything right, once you run it, what should happen?
It should print the two variables, the Celsius temp and the Fahrenheit temp.
Yep. So when we run, what did I spell wrong? Up, didn't have a semicolon after my final double conversion factor. Did I spell something else wrong too? Yes.
That's why all my variables are so simple. I know there's no shot I'm going to be able to spell Fahrenheit right the same way twice in a row. So I just call it F.
Makes sense. And that's perfectly fine. And once I fix those spelling errors, we have our Celsius temperature is 24 and our Fahrenheit is 75.2. What if we changed our Celsius temperature to, I don't know, give me an example.
39.
39, okay. What's going to happen now? Our Celsius temperature now changes from 24 to 39, and then our Fahrenheit temperature changes to whatever the multiple is for that. So Celsius temperature 39 probably represents what we got today, maybe 102.2.
Yeah. It's hot.
Okay.
My family lives in Italy, and it's always quite warm.
Well, here in New Jersey, it's unconventionally warm for the first week of September.
It seems like it, yes.
Usually it's in the about 70s by now. This week it's been in the 90s every day. So, all right. So we only have 9 minutes left before Zoom kicks us off. Would you prefer that I go through the last two in a video myself and just upload them? What I'm going to do, because somebody asked me for this in this class and in the mobile apps class, I'm going to put together a recording and have it up sometime this weekend of more or less how I go about programming. You kind of saw it where I kind of put comments towards everything just to give myself an idea of how I go about it, my thinking. For example, if we're going to demonstrate the use of a for loop, I would have the comment first, and then I'd have my class Then I'd have my method. Then I'd have my for loop. This way I go through and know each thing that I'm doing. I set the variables as exactly what they are. You mentioned, like Amelia said, and you saw with the errors when we ran this, that sometimes that's not the best of ideas because you may have issues with the spelling. Okay, I'm going to try to get in this last. Actually, we have 2 left. So I'll go to all of you. Do you guys want me to just record those 2 other ones I had set as examples for today? The demonstrate the use of a for loop with the involvement of user input and demonstrate the use of a number format class, and just take questions here for the last 7 minutes before Zoom boots us out. And
Yeah,
like
I don't mind.
somebody else in the other class as well as this, like I said, I'll record a video of myself kind of going through more in depth with other programs to kind of show you how I go about programming. So I will leave it to questions. Like I said, going forward, on Tuesdays, we'll kind of have more of a lecture, and then Thursdays will be more like this, where I'm going through programs related to that topic. Keep in mind that you're going to have homework 1, the calendar, due, when did I have it set up? Monday nights?
Yeah, it's due the 11th.
Okay, so that would be
So
due
yes.
Monday night at 11:59 p.m. Like I showed you with last week's folder, every week I'm going to have additional, I don't know if you'd call them sample videos, but basically YouTube clips I found online reviewing all these different topics. So numeric data types, numeric expressions, string class, string methods, comparison and logical operators, if, else, if, switch statements. I also added examples of good Java formatting and bad Java formatting. If you're going to use some of these certain compilers, they more often than not automatically set it up in the good Java formatting. And this week we covered loops and methods. And so I have an example of a while loop, a do while loop, a for loop.
Do you want us to submit these anywhere? These programs we just did with you?
No, like I said, this is just practice for us to get acquainted, review what hopefully you learned in programming 1. But I
Okay.
noticed on Tuesday that some of you indicated that you don't really remember. Some of you might have had it a year ago. I know in the mobile apps class, a couple had it 2 years ago. So,
Mm.
and who knows the difference between for loops and while loops?
I said it last class, so I'm not going to say it again.
A for loop simply repeats specific code a number of times based on your settings. A while loop keeps going while certain conditions are met. Okay, so I hope to have all of that posted by Sunday evening at some point. It takes about an hour for YouTube to kind of upload certain things at times. So tomorrow at the latest, you'll have today's lecture recording in this week's folder, just like Tuesday's recording is there. And like I said, I'll add that video of me going through different programming the way I do it. So on Tuesday, we'll go through single dimensional and multi-dimensional arrays. as a lecture, and then Thursday we'll actually do arrays programming wise.
All right.
So again, make sure that you go ahead and do, where is it? Homework assignment 2, which is creating the calendar, and I gave you sample code of the way I did it right below there. And as I mentioned, I think Grace asked, once we get into more advanced topics, we'll probably go more the full length of the class, like 2 to 3:45, rather than this kind of abbreviated 2:30 to 3:15 setup. But if nobody has any questions, I will bid you adieu and see you next week.
I just wanted to ask, so I turned in that calendar printing, and I don't know if you wanted comments on it. So I just put some comments explaining my process. Is that something that you would find helpful on other homework assignments?
On the homeworks, I don't necessarily care. Like I mentioned with the group project, when you put together your hangman or tic-tac-toe, I will just want comments set up, as I mentioned in class on Tuesday, basically telling me who did what part of the group project. So that's another thing you might be thinking about. I don't know if any of you have had classes with each other. I think we have 7 total individuals in this course. So like I said, maybe you have 2 groups of 2, and then the last group be a group of 3. That's something you could be thinking about. I believe add drop is passed, yes?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So I will look into that too, because I don't know, you may not like me so far. Want to get out of here. But yeah, so start thinking about who might be your teammates for that group project, and complete homework assignment 2. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to meet with you individually on Zoom. Probably Friday morning and Sunday morning might work best for me, but shoot me an email. We'll figure it out if you have any questions between now and our next class. All right. I bid you all adieu. Enjoy this gorgeous weather, and I'll see you all on Tuesday.
Okay, bye, Professor.
Take care now.
Bye, Professor.
See you, Professor.
Take care.